welcome back to Jam Fast. Marty here. In this quick video, I'm going to be showing you the solo dynamics exercise out of lesson 11. Give you some new articulations to add to your soloing abilities. So if you want to open up that lesson and follow along, without further ado, let's get into some solo dynamics. Alright, so to start out, we're going to be following that lesson along. So the first embellishment we're going to look into is the hammer-on. I'm going to put an example over here for you to follow along, but notice how we notate this hammer-on. There's an arch going from the first note to the second note. Sometimes they have an H above that arch, which dictates a hammer-on, but mostly look at the note value of the preceding note. If it's higher in note value, notice that that second note is up on the 5th fret. It gives us that ability to hammer down, creating that next tone. So following that image over here, we're going to use our index finger, one finger, pushing down on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. And using our 3rd finger, we're going to hammer down on that 5th fret, creating the next tone, but using the energy from that first note. That's going to be our hammer-on. All right, next embellishment we're going to be looking at is the pull-off. I'm also going to put an example up over here. Similarly with the notation on the hammer-on, there's an arch also with the pull-off going from one note to the next. But this is why I said you really got to look at the note value on that second note. On the pull-off, the note is less in pitch, it's lower in value, so it gives us the ability to pull off one note, making the tone of that next lower pitched note. Sometimes it is notated with a P above the arch, which dictates pull off. So similarly with this image, you're going to be pushing down on the 5th fret of the 1st string with your ring finger, and then we're going to be pushing down on the 3rd fret with your 1st finger already, but first with that ring finger on the 5th fret, we're going to pluck the string, and then you're going to flick or pull off that ring finger to make the note of that 3rd fret with your 1st finger. That's going to be our pull off. All right, so for the 3rd embellishment today, we'll be covering slides. Again, going to put up an example over here for you to follow along. Notice how the notation is going to be a little different on this one. We're connecting those two notes with a straight line with that slight incline. I'll be using my 3rd finger, fretting down on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, keeping that pressure, going to slide up to the 5th fret to make the tone of that 5th fret 2nd string note. You'll notice some songs, they have you slide entire chords. For example, Van Halen's Ain't Talking About Love, they start off with power chords sliding from the D up to the E. That's going to be our slide. So the last embellishment we're going to cover today is the bend. You might be familiar with this already because this was in our very first jam trick of the course, learning the bendy note. Again, going to put up an example over here for you to follow along to, but notice how we illustrate the bend. We have the note that we first hit, and then we got this scooping arrow that goes up to either a fraction of a 1/2 or just a number 1. Now that arrow refers to bending that first note. The fraction that follows it tells you how far to bend that string and that note up to. A 1/2 means a half step or 1 fret, whereas if it has a pointing up arrow just to a number 1, that means a whole step or 2 frets. So with this image, we're going to start on the 1st string of the 7th fret. I'm going to be using my 3rd finger, the ring finger. You're going to make the tone of that fret. And then sometimes I like to use my 1 and 2 fingers right behind it on the same string as leverage. We're going to bend up, creating the tonal value of the 8th fret on that 1st string. So again, make the tone of that 7th fret and then bend it up to that 8th fret tone. That's going to be our bend. All right, so to recap these embellishments, I got a couple of exercises at the bottom here for you. First one is kind of an Aerosmith style exercise, and the second one is going to be a Jimi Hendrix. So the first exercise, we're just using hammer-ons and pull-offs. It's going to look a little bit like this, starting with our one finger on the 8th fret, and then hammering down on the 10th fret, and then the 8th fret of our 4th string, and then back to those same last two notes, but we're going to do a pull off. So you're going to be hitting down first on the 10th fret of that 5th string with our ring finger, and we're going to pull down to that 8th fret of the 5th string.